Went out to pick some beets the other day for pickled beets, and it turned out that some animal had eaten probably about 40 pounds of my beets in 3 different beds. So I was able to pick what was left. It wasn't exactly as many as I wanted, but that was all I had left. And then I decided to make pickled beets out of them. So basically, you just start by removing the tops, leave about 2 inches stem, wash them, and then we sort them. We have a pot for the bigger ones and then a pot for the smaller ones because they'll cook in half the time. And then while I got the beets starting to boil, I got out that new bottle washing brush, and you have to give all your bottles a real good washing before you use them. So it's just a matter of get some real good hot water going and get them really as clean as you can, and do a really good job rinsing them, because whatever you do, you don't want to have any soap left in the bottle when you go to use them. And like I've said in all the other canning videos that I've done, you really want to just make sure that everything is super clean, that there's no contamination, and it's all rinsed really well, so there's no soap or anything left in it. So it took a couple minutes to get I'm going to run a dozen of them because we're doing a double up batch of the recipe. And it says each batch should give you 6 pints. So there they are. I got 12 pints in the pot just to start preheating them. And then my wife started making up a couple spice bags. There's 3 tablespoons of pickling spice in each recipe, so we're doubling it. So she basically made up 2 little bags. You take a little corner of a piece of cheesecloth and cut it out and put your spices in, and then you just tie it up so that they can't fall out, and then it makes it real easy to just remove all the spices before you do the canning once everything is cooked. So here we go. It's been about an hour, and it took like an hour for the big beets to actually get tender, and the smaller ones we turned on a lot later, and they took about half the time. So just be careful if you do any of this, because everything is really scalding hot, and these beets actually will remain hot for quite some time. So we just take them out of the pot, and then we stick them in a stainless bowl there, and actually give them a while to cool before you start to handle them and peel them. Next thing you do is you just cut that top and bottom off, and then the skins basically just fall right off of them after they're cooked. And always make sure that you wear some kind of a rubber glove when you're doing this, because otherwise your fingers will be stained for a long time. And then once you get them peeled, I like to slice them in slices that are between 3/16 of an inch and a 1/4 inch thick. And at the same time, make sure you wear gloves, because it's just a mess. So there they are, all sliced up and basically ready to go. Now we're going to get the brine ready that we cook up. So to start with, we need 5 cups of a white vinegar. Each batch takes 2.5, and make sure that you use at least a 5% vinegar here for any of your canning or anything. So there we go, putting the vinegar in the pot. And then once the vinegar is in, we need 2 cups of water, 1 cup for each batch. And then we need 2 cups of sugar. So that's a 1/2 cup scoop there. So she's going to put 4 of them in just to, get 2 batches ready. And then when you're done, you just throw those spice bags in. And I take it outside to my little camp stove, and I cook out there when I'm canning. And you want to, turn the heat on like a medium-high heat. But at the same time, make sure that in the beginning that you stir it a lot until the sugar is completely dissolved. And, otherwise that sugar will burn to the bottom. So give it a couple of good stirs. And at the same time, I've got my jars preheating now, getting them ready. Now, once that comes up to a boil, you have to reduce the heat a little bit and then boil it for 15 minutes with the spices in it. And then first thing you do is you just, after 15 minutes, you remove those little bags with the pickling spices in them and get them out of the way. And then just add the beets and, mix everything together in the pot with the brine. And then you just have to wait for that to come up to a boil. I give it a couple stirs, try to heat everything up evenly while we're waiting. And once it comes up to a boil and just starts boiling like that, it's time to get your jars ready because, it's time to put it in the jars. So, basically my jars have been steaming for about 20 minutes now, I think, and just going to take them out of the canning pot and then set them over on a wood cutting board. And like I've said before, you always want to make sure that you're using wood so you don't shock the glass or anything and have any cracks. Now at the same time, you want to put all your lids in a little pot and start heating them up. So, once the jars are all out, and just start filling them with the beets. Now you try to, get just beets in the beginning. Don't put too much liquid in yet. And they are kind of, hard to get in the jar sometimes, and they don't lay flat. So what I do is I just fill them up a little bit, and then my wife will take that little canning helper tool and go back through and just try to move them around so we can get as many beets as we can in the jar. So this takes a little bit of time, and that's why you want to cut your beets small enough too to fit through the jar opening. Now we like to use wide mouth jars on these because it makes it easier. You can leave them a little bit bigger. So there we're just going back through and filling them up, getting them ready. Now this was supposed to do a batch of 2 batches of 6 jars according to the recipe, but it turned out that we just didn't have enough to fill the 12 jars. So we started by taking 1 jar off and getting down to 11 and kind of distributing everything from that jar and the other ones. And then in the end, we wound up going down to 10 jars. So we had to, we just kind of tried to squeeze the couple extra beets in each jar. And you want to make sure that you've got a 1/2 inch headspace when you're done also. So we had a couple left over to eat. Then with the jars all full and headspace all set, basically you just go back through and wipe off the rim just to make sure there's nothing on there. And then you've got your tops that were kind of steaming. Don't bring them up to a boil, just kind of steam them. And you just set the tops on the jars as you would for, any other canning process. And next you'll go back through and just put those rings on each jar. Yeah, so what I do first is I just, try to get them snugged up as good as I can when I first put them on there. Make sure they're screwed on good. Then I'll go back later and I'll use a hot pot or a bottle holder there and go back through and snug up the tops for the canning process. And then, it's just same as always, put them back in the boiling water bath. And what happened here is we only wound up with filling 10 jars, so I actually had to add a couple cups of water more to have enough water in the pot. Then bring it up to a boil, and once it starts boiling, you set it for 30 minutes. And in the meantime, I ran out in the garden with my cart, and I cut a couple butternuts and gourds and pumpkins and whatnot. I had some spare time, and there they are. And then at the end of the 30-minute processing time, basically just kind of let it count down, and then when it's all over, just turn off the flame under the pot. And then you can let it sit for a while if you want, or basically what I do is I usually just give it a couple minutes, and I'll take the jars out carefully and put them on some wood cooling racks that I have, just so that you don't put them on any glass or anything like that could shock them. So basically, there they are. Now we just have to let them sit overnight and let them cool down. And then the next day, I just take the rings off, check that everything is sealed properly, and then just write some labels on them to put them down in the root cellar. Now, this recipe is just the plain pickled beet recipe from the Ball Blue Book, and it's turned out to be one of our favorites. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.